Greetings and welcome to another VillageSoup interview. I'm Dan Dunkel. I'm the news director for VillageSoup, and with me here today is City Manager Tom Luttrell. Thanks for being here, Tom.
Well, thanks for inviting me, Dan.
I guess I'll just get right into the question that's on everybody's mind. What is going on with the roads in Rockland? We're seeing a lot of potholes and uneven places. What's causing the problem, and can you tell us a little bit about what the plan is?
Oh, sure, but I don't think it's just roads in Rockland. I think it's roads in the whole state of Maine. The state of Maine has a problem with potholes. No matter where you drive, I think you're going to run into a pothole or two. But yes, Rockland has their fair share. I will say that. As you know, we have been discussing many projects over the last 6 months to a year with City Council and capital improvement projects such as sewer, wastewater separation. And so I'll address South Main Street with that. That seems to be on everybody's mind. I get daily calls, what's going on with South Main. But starting in April, we should start seeing construction on South Main to do a sewer separation project. The project will last from April to probably end of July, and that will take the stormwater out of the wastewater line, so it will no longer go to the wastewater plant, and at the same time should fix all the potholes and repave that road from Maritime Farms or Thomaston Street down to Pleasant Street down near 250 Main Hotel. And that will hopefully correct about 90 to 100% of all that road condition.
Okay, great.
But we also have many roads in town, as you're aware, that have potholes. Another one big concern is Camden Street, and that is a state project that'll be starting hopefully sometime after June, and that's just an overlay from Maverick Street down to the Rockport town line, so that will take care of that road. But we also, if you remember, many years ago, a couple of years ago, the voters in Rockland authorized a $2.7 million bond for road construction. And last year we started to enact that money and actually went out and borrowed it to start repairing the roads. We did a little more work last fall, but this spring we're going to be spending $2 million on paving. And anybody that's interested in what's going to be paved, they can go up to the city website, and we have a whole list of the roads that are proposed. I'm not going to say those are the ones that are going to be done, but they're the ones being proposed for paving.
Okay, and we had recently done Old County Road too, so that one was squared away.
Yes, yeah, Old County Road
a year or two ago,
was done back in probably 2015, and that was a combination of state and city project. It was what we call an MPI grant. So up to $500,000, we did 2 MPI grants. We got $1 million from the state, and we put $1.4 million in of city money and reconstructed that entire road. So that road now is a nice smooth road for passerbys.
So is part of the plan to set aside a certain amount of money each year and then kind of create a schedule of the roads that need it based on which ones need it the most? Or is it project by project and looking at it from doing these bonds and what have you?
Yeah, it would be nice to put like $500,000 a year into a paving project. The city actually could withstand, well, I shouldn't say withstand it in their budget, but they could actually take that on as a project. But as I just said, the budget does not allow that. Currently, right now, I think we're putting about $150,000 for projects into the public services budget, which encompasses everything from paving to ditching to culvert work or anything that comes up. So it's not enough to maintain the roads. So we're always looking at bonding money. Back, I want to say maybe 8 years ago, we paid off a paving bond. That was a 2-year paving, a 10-year paving bond. And we didn't re-up that paving bond at the time. At that point in time, we were looking at budgets and trying to save money, so we no longer went back to the voters and asked for another $10 million. So the thought process going forward is every time we pay off a paving bond, we should reenact it and go back to the voters to ask for more money to keep that debt payment going to continue maintaining the roads.
Okay. Now, we have a public works department. Is that the group that does a lot of this work, or do we often find that we have to hire contractors to do it, or is it sort of a mix of both? How does that work?
Well, it depends on what they're doing. I mean, like we did Lime Rock Street last fall. We paved it from Old County Road, I think almost down to Broadway. And we did a lot of the ditching work and the preparation work on that. And then we don't have the equipment to pave, so that's always a contracted service.
Okay. All right. And I guess the next question on a lot of people's minds would be what goes on at the transfer station. And I understand that single stream recycling is actually coming. What time, when are we going to get that, and how's that going to change things for us?
Yep. Transfer station is undergoing some renovations right now for single stream recycling. You'll see in June, I can't remember the exact date in June, it's like the 8th maybe, that we switch over to single stream. We'll be starting the education. We have been doing education, but we'll be pumping up the education on that to explain to people what single stream is, what can and can't go into single stream. But basically, when you drive into the transfer station, you notice the hoppers that are there, and there'll be one hopper that is designated just for single stream recycling. So there'll be no more outbuilding to go to. You'll be going to one building to dispose of your trash in your recycling.
So I don't have to make all the different stops. I could just go in one.
That's right.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, and the beauty of single stream is you don't have to separate it anymore. It all goes into the hopper, your cardboard, your newspaper, your cans, and anything else, plastics that are recyclable. So it should be easier for people to recycle, so we're hoping that will increase our recycling in the city and cut down on our MSW charge.
It basically increased the participation.
That's correct. Yeah. Yep.
And Valerie and I were talking a little bit about this in one of these interviews, and I think she indicated that we might be seeing a price increase for the stickers, though.
Currently, the budget that we're working on for fiscal year 2020 that will start in July does not see a sticker increase, which is nice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we've been able to maintain that. I think it's at $125 for the year.
But you think it might be down the road because...
Oh, down the road, it's probably inevitable that it'll definitely go up. But we've been able to hold it at the $125. I want to say this might be the third year. So.
And she'd mentioned, I think, that part of the thing with that maybe some Rockland residents don't realize is that with our transfer station and solid waste facility, it's not wrapped into the taxes because it's based on usage. So this way, anybody that uses it or any commercial hauler or whatever gets charged, not just the taxpayers. Is that basically, am I right about how that works?
Yeah, that's basically it. Years ago, we took the transfer station out of the general fund budget, so it was totally fee-based. So it didn't affect the tax base at all. I think in the last 3 years, maybe back in 2016, they brought that back into the general fund budget, but it's still a fee-based operation, and the fees are supposed to cover 100% of the operations up there.
And is that working out, or are you finding it?
No, it's working out. It's just getting more efficient up there, and the landfill is closing, as we all know. The big mound.
That was my next big question.
Yep.
What's the future of that? What needs to be done with that? And
yep.
What will it look like?
Well, we've got I don't even think we have another year left. I know Dave St. Laurent, the Public Services Director, has been meeting with the DEP and working on a closure plan, and we're getting ready to finalize that. So we may have another 6 months to a year of putting waste in there. And then after that, we'll end up covering it. Right now, we're negotiating what that cover can be and trying to control the cost for the citizens of Rockland.
What do you think that cover might look like? I mean, will it be like a grassed over lawn or a...
Ideally, once it's 100% complete, yes, it'll be all grassed over, and probably, I know people are saying they like to see a butterfly field there. So
a butterfly field?
Yeah, so if you see where the open transfer station
is that a specific facility of some kind? It's not just a place where butterflies can happen to show up? We actually make them show up?
Well, I think it depends on what you plant in there for flowers.
I see.
Wildflowers and type of thing. But currently, we have a closed landfill already that's right in the same quarry down a little further past past the quarry now. And if you notice that's all grass, and we mow that.
Will that actually be safe? The quarry, I remember the days when the quarry was 100 feet down to the water and then 100 feet down below the water. So you didn't want to fall in, and now it's you've got it covered up. But will it be something that'll actually be safe to run around on? Will people actually be doing that, or is that going to still be kind of blocked off? Because I always wonder if you could hit some kind of hole in there or something. I don't know.
I'm not 100% sure what the rules are on closed landfills, but you can walk out on the closed landfill that we have now.
Without sinking
Without
somewhere.
sinking,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. Not to say there aren't low spots and high spots there, but yeah, you should be able to walk on it firmly and not have to worry about falling 100 feet into a quarry.
Were there any thoughts about doing like maybe a solar panel field or something like that there? Has that been?
That's been tossed around, and I know there's certain rules and regulations you have to follow when you close a landfill. And I know Public Services has been dealing with DEP on what we can and can't do once it's 100% closed. And the solar panel farm is one thing we've been looking at, but we haven't gotten final word on what we can and can't do yet.
Just kind of like an interesting idea. Anyway,
Oh yeah,
yeah. Money. All right. Well, here's another question I have for you. There's been a lot of talk about this potential Yachting Solutions marina expansion down in the harbor. Can you give me any sense of what your thoughts are on that?
Well, yeah, Yachting Solutions came to us, back in February, had a presentation, I should say, February of, must be 18 now, and they really want to expand their marina down in the harbor. They're going through the planning process now, which we've been fortunate and lucky that Yachting Solutions is a good neighbor, and they brought it forward to the city to see what they thought and wanted to get our thought process and our opinion on it. And that's why we've had numerous meetings on it. The idea that they have to expand their marina will take a lot of the inner harbor out, right there in front of DST. Their second expansion, I believe, will bring the floats in there for, transient boats. But overall, I think it's expansion for the city of Rockland and the harbor. I like to see growth in the city, but I also want to make sure it's smart growth and it's growth that is embraced by the citizens of Rockland.
I mean, do you think this is a project that could, work ultimately?
Yeah, I think once, Yachting Solutions brings forth their final plan, which they brought, I think maybe a couple of weeks ago, came back to council with a plan. They're getting closer to their final design. And I think they're taking into consideration view corridor and the access for, the Rockland residents or citizens and their boats that they have out in the mooring field. So hopefully we can get everybody together and agree, on something and allow an expansion or something to happen down there. I think growth in a city is a good thing.
And I think sometimes, and maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, so maybe you can help me understand this, is that when these development projects are proposed, we first kind of hear about them when the big story comes out about the big meeting where people are arguing about it.
Yeah.
But my understanding too is that sometimes what happens is, if I'm a developer or a business person or somebody with an idea, I maybe come into City Hall, I talk to you, I talk to John Root, and basically you guys kind of say, okay, well, here's what you would need to do to make this work, and here's what we think. I mean, is that kind of how these types of things shake out, or?
Oh yeah, I mean, the Yachting Solutions or anything that wants to expand in Rockland, they usually come in and meet with staff to make sure what they want to do is allowed by ordinance or code in the city, and that way they know what they need to do to maneuver to make sure their project can happen. I mean, we see that with housing developments, the marina expansion, most things that want to happen in the city. So, which is a good thing. We want people to come in and feel comfortable to sit down with staff and go through their ideas and brainstorm a little bit to make the whole process easier.
Now, are you pretty much agnostic on these things? You basically let them come in and basically say, well, if this goes forward, this is what you need to do, or do you sometimes think, yeah, I think this is a good idea, and maybe say to the city council, I think this would be a good idea?
Staff's role, pretty much, my role and everybody else's role, is we just listen and guide them through the city process and let city council make the final decision. They're the policy makers in the town, of the city, and we just enforce it, and we guide, and we'll even guide council. They'll have questions on the legalities of it. Does it meet our ordinance? What needs to be done? Does something need to be changed? If it's a good change, bad change, and they'll get staff advice from there.
Okay. And then one other question I had too, several years back now, there was talk about selling City Hall, and there's been discussion about possibly moving City Hall more to the downtown where it might be more accessible. I think McLean School was considered. Is there anything, is that still anywhere on the table, or is that completely out of the question now?
It's always on the table. The City Hall, where it's located now, is on the outskirts of Rockland. Everybody wants to be in town, be more convenient for the citizens to get to and conduct business. We just need to find that right location. We have looked at McLean School. There's debate on whether it would be a good City Hall or not. Right now there is a group or a committee that's been put together to research McLean School and figure out what the best possibility is. And they will be doing a report actually Monday evening, March 4th.
Oh, well, there you go.
To the City Council, and asking to go out for an RFQ for qualifications for a developer to come in and determine what might be best use of that building.
Of the current City Hall building? Or
no, the McLean School building.
The McLean School building, yeah.
Yep.
So it looks like it would kind of be a monster to heat, but I don't, I'm not really an engineer or anything like that. I just,
Yeah, that, it's a one boiler system for 3 floors, which, it's I think it's one thermostat for the entire building. So it could be monstrous, yes. We've been given a figure of $80,000, but we think that's for maintenance for the year, but not just the heat, so.
Right, and then you might have to do some renovation and whatnot to get it.
Oh yeah, if City Hall went there, definitely renovations would have to be undertaken. I think there's, someone said the roof needs to be repaired. So, and the windows are, I don't know how old those are, but they leak.
So is the current City Hall facility that you guys are in, aside from the fact that it's kind of on the outskirts of town, is it adequate? Does it have the right size, or do you guys find that you have needs that isn't meeting?
No, I think it's the right size. We've got a few empty offices in there. We've downsized staff in City Hall over the last 5 or 6 years. So we've got a few empty offices, so I think the size is appropriate. It's just the location. And we sit on probably some of the last few lots that are zoned industrial in the city. So that whole end of town is industrial. So if we ever vacated, some type of business could actually go in there, which, would help the valuation of the city and grow. So
interesting. So one of the other questions, Tom, is there's been a lot of discussion in Rockland about housing. I think for years I've been hearing that we don't have as much affordable housing. There's been discussion about short-term rentals. There's been discussion about how do we help. We have a fairly aging population. How do we help them age in place? And recently we've had a zoning overhaul that would have allowed smaller houses, setbacks, changes, and then the council had to do an about face on that. What do you think about all of these situations, and what do you see coming for housing opportunities in Rockland?
Oh, that's a good question. We're talking about McLean School and with the possibilities of there, and that's one of the proposals is to make that as a affordable housing. That way, getting a developer in and figuring out how many units they could actually put in there to help not just elderly, but millennials or anybody that wanted affordable housing in McLean School. And we call it workforce housing. So anybody that needs to come in, needs a place to stay, rent, I should say, would be available for them. But we've also been looking at, as I like to call it, Ordinance 48, where they called it the tiny home ordinance. That was basically going to reduce setbacks, lot sizes, and the size of the homes themselves. And that would have allowed some more homes to be built. We are doing a contract zone right now on Philbrook Avenue for Habitat of Humanity to construct a neighborhood. I think it's 12 homes that are probably 750 square feet or less. So they'll be having a tiny neighborhood in there, which will be affordable housing. We've looked at the possibility, which we're still looking at, is on Lawn Avenue. The city owns some property up there on the top of Lawn Avenue, and we're looking at the possibility of being able to break that into small home lots, which would not say that a tiny home would go in there, but it would cut down on the size of the lot, and someone could still put a 3-bedroom ranch home in there, or a colonial, or a cape, or whatever they wanted. But we wanted to make it that the lot wouldn't be too expensive for people to purchase and to be able to put a home on. So we're looking at a lot of different avenues for people to be able to afford to live in Rockland. And may that be, an accessory dwelling unit to someone's existing home, so age in place type of thing, as they like to call it, or a tiny home for someone. I shouldn't say tiny home, but a smaller home for someone to start out in, that maybe they just want 2 bedrooms and be able to grow, and then once they have a family, move into a bigger home. But we're trying to encourage the growth in Rockland with people, and if we can attract a younger crowd, as we all know, the state of Maine is aging, and we want Rockland to be a destination for people to want to live. And that way we can attract business and industry, and hopefully have some good paying jobs.
Are those zoning changes completely dead in the water now, or is there a possibility that there's going to be some kind of a compromise and a meeting with the people who are opposed to it and coming up with some kind of middle ground?
Yeah, I know council rescinded their vote on the ordinance 48 to change all the zoning in all the lots in the Rockland. I'm not sure what's going on right now, but I do think that it will be looked at again probably in the future. But I think it'll be at a slower pace, and they'll be listening to the feedback they got from the citizens that didn't like it, and trying to get a compromise to allow some of it to happen anyway.
Right, figure out a way to maybe get a little bit more buy-in from the community.
That's right. Yep. I think you'll see a workshop or two coming up in the future.
Okay, well, great. Any other things that I didn't ask you about that you think are priorities in the coming months, or things that you're kind of interested in talking about?
Well, one thing I forgot when we were talking about potholes, Monday evening also, we're having a discussion with council on buying some equipment to help us maintain the potholes. And we've been looking into some equipment, Public Services Director, and we're looking at buying a truck that we call the pothole truck. It basically is a truck that takes hot mix, and we'll put it in the bed of their truck, keep it hot, and then there's a component of tack, so there's a machine on there for tack, and then also a compressor. And so basically what we'd end up doing in the spring, summer, and fall months is going around and doing a lot of pothole repair on the roads that we're not going to be paving. And basically what we'd end up doing to be cutting out, maintaining the pothole, and then putting hot mix, or tacking it, putting hot mix down, and then properly compacting it. So that way, hopefully that does not pop back up, during the winter.
The pothole truck.
Yeah.
It's got a nice ring to it. Sounds
well, I think it's pretty appropriate, yeah. So that will be on March 4th discussion with council. Public Services will be there to discuss the truck and the possibilities, and we're looking at a used truck that, another municipality is getting rid of because it's got 50,000 miles on it, and that's their policy. Get rid of stuff when it gets 50,000 miles, and we think we might be able to pick it up for 20 grand. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So.
Anything else?
No, we just encourage the citizens of Rockland to come forward and come to our meetings and participate. Budget season is fast approaching. We'll be presenting to council at the end of April, and we're hoping to bring in a budget that maintains city services and keeps the mill rate stable.
And we'll be covering all of those meetings, and also you guys have a website with all kinds of information on it, including the roads that will be. Do you know the website address right off the top of your head?
It's www.rocklandmaine.gov.
There we go, and they can check there to see whether your road is on the list to be fixed at some point.
That's right on the front page.
All right. Well, great. Well, thanks for being here today, Tom.
Yes. Well, thank you for inviting me.
All right.
Been a
great.
pleasure.
And thank you guys for watching. Please check out all of our news, interviews, and videos on knox.villagesoup.com. If you go to the tab at the top that says Watch, you can scroll down, and we have all the videos under Behind the News. And if you have any questions, thoughts, concerns, ideas, email us at news@villagesoup.com. Thanks a lot.